All right, Ted, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you.
Just to warn you, some Bulls fans are waiting for you outside after that playoff series last year. And then Paul Pierce tried to pull a Mo Howard on Joakim Noah. So, some people want
setting the tone early, 3 minutes into our first preseason game. It was fun. We look forward to playing Chicago.
Absolutely. It's a great budding rivalry. So first up, we'll get away from the Wizards a little bit, but we'll say you chair the league's media committee. And the big news is the NBA signed a massive new TV deal with TNT and with Turner Sports and ESPN. And, it's been estimated for, $24 billion for a 9-year deal, which triples the current value. So how is this new money going to change the league, from what you guys are doing with streaming video to, labor? The next labor deal is going to be up after the first season of this new media deal, which kicks off in 2016, 2017. So as someone who's so involved with this, how is this going to change NBA?
Well, I think it augurs well for the power of sports. It's really the only content and programming in this social real-time world that convenes and brings together at one time appointment viewing large audiences. At the event when we announced, the president of Turner said of their top 10 rated shows last year, 9 were NBA games. And you just look at what's happened in the world, it's counterintuitive because you would have thought that with so many channels proliferating, so much content, so many websites, so many blogs, that sports content would be diffusing. And instead it's gone up the value chain. And we're seeing, I think, something cultural happening around sports and the interactivity of being in an arena, being amongst a clan, a group of people. It really plays well into this whole local and social and mobile phenomenon that millennials live their life on that platform. And I think it really gets to demography. There are 60% of the nation's population coagulates around the 32 NFL cities. And when you look at those metro areas, very few institutions are representative of iconic defining for that community. It's universities. We're in Northwestern University. DC has Georgetown, Boston has Harvard. Universities represent longevity, architecture, IP, alumni. Second is a business community, Wall Street, Silicon Valley. Third is public space. It's amazing the importance of public space to gather people. We've got the mall in Washington, D.C. I have a dream speech, Martin Luther King, President Obama's first inaugural. These are like pivotal moments around public space. Fourth is real estate, iconic real estate. You think of Chicago, you'll think of Wrigley Field, you'll think of the Sears Tower, whatever it's called now. We've got the monuments in Washington. You think of New York, Madison Square Garden's iconic real estate. Yankee Stadium used to be iconic real estate. And then lastly, sports teams. Chicago is defined by sports teams. We talked Ronnie Lott. Ronnie hasn't played in the league a long time. People know who Ronnie Lott is. There's a lot of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies whose names you could throw out. No one would have any idea who they are. And so sports plays that really pivotal role, and it's valued by media companies, and that's why we were able to almost triple our media rights.
How much do you, you interact a lot with fans in different venues. How much do you look on, say, like Twitter during a Wizards game or a Capitals game? Because that is a place where now, I don't think it's ever going to change that people want to go to games, but people do interact with each other there, and it's a big second screen now. How much do you do that? How much important is that?
Well, I'm older, so I don't use social media the way my son and daughter do. I use it as a publishing platform, and I use TweetDeck, and I blog every day at Ted's Take, and my blog posts get turned into tweets, and they get turned into Facebook news feeds, and so I use it more as a way to connect. I've probably responded to a couple of 100,000 emails since I've owned the team. I pull tickets, I walk around, I meet people, I've had millions and millions of interactions with the fans. I mean, part of that is I'm extroverted and I get my energy from the fans. I also do believe, for the most part, in the collective wisdom of crowds. And if you just look historically, the best owners, the most successful franchises, are the ones that hold a mirror up to the community they serve, and they're managed like they're a public trust. And I live in Washington, D.C. I can't run away when we have a losing streak. I live, I work, my son lives in Georgetown. You know, my wife is, all her charity work is in the city. So, I mean, it's really important to me to be connected to that community and to keep pushing the agenda to make sure that we have teams that the community's proud of.
You know, really interesting story in the NBA that ESPN put out last week, I believe, about biometric testing and what it can mean for predicting health and performance of players, what they can learn, and the ethics of it. You know, one bioethics attorney in the story said if the purpose is to predict performance, that's not a healthcare purpose, it's an economic purpose. But yet, the owner of the Kings said we want to be one step beyond what everyone else is doing. How interested are you in that type of technology and research?
Well, teams are really becoming big data-driven organizations. I mean, we have data scientists in key positions in the company. And you can use the data the right way. Literally in basketball, we've got these high-speed cameras. We were one of the first teams that did it. That
Sport for you.
Yeah, that pixelates the floor. We can tell John Wall when there's a rebound and you get the rebound at this pixel. If you dribble 3 times and pass, we score X% of the time. If you dribble 4 times and pass, so don't dribble as much. and so it's very, very instructive. And some of the things, and I can understand the whole issue, and we live in this contradictory world where we want safety, security, privacy, yet we live in this social world where we're tweeting, I'm up, I'm showered, I'm in traffic, I'm hungry.
You've been reading my Twitter feed.
But the biometrics, what they'll promise is, are you hustling? The other day at a practice, one of our young players, Otto Porter, when he's on the floor, he really runs a lot. And Paul Pierce, who now is on our team, and I were talking, and he said, he reminds me of John Havlicek. And most people don't know who John Havlicek was. He invented the 6th man, and he once had a pedometer put on him, and he ran 15 miles in a game. 15 miles. Today, the average NBA player runs about 3.5 miles. Okay? Now, they're deeper rotations, it's 8 or 9 men, but it was very interesting that a pedometer was able to tell that the 6th man who just wore his opponent down. And so I think that, Apple will have its watch out. I'm on Fitbit. I think that as we as consumers become more and more a part of a health community, that the players will feel comfortable, but we all have to be very cognizant of what the union feels and wants to protect the rights of the players, and I think that that's a fair exchange for us to be concerned about it.
Right, and if people hadn't read the story, that one of the issues is that players are worried or potentially worried that maybe they'll find something in the studies of their health and use that against them in contracts. Now, that's, like you said, something you have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, and we should be, although I do have to laugh. I mean, if you've ever been on the other side of an agent when they're coming and talking to you, I mean, they've got more data and analytic experts working for them, and so there is this arms race on data that happens, but I do understand the issue, and we will be very sensitive to it.
From another side, I was reading your Ted's Take. I like to read Ted's Take. It's very poetic. And you recently wrote a recent Wall Street Journal op-ed, and you talk a lot about the Internet of Things concept and the Internet of Customers concept and the idea of personalized engagement between consumers and businesses. And I thought an interesting thing you guys are doing that kind of relates to this is the Wizards are one of probably half the league that has changed the model of season ticket holders. I don't think a lot of fans get this yet, that the new way of season tickets in the NBA is a membership model. You're not a season ticket holder anymore, you're a member. It's a 12-month thing, and they want to make it like, basically it's based off European soccer or AOL, which is your thing.
Well, I think, it's interesting you talk about Internet of Things. So I first got online at 1200 baud, and we helped to get America online. That was what AOL did. Most of your parents were AOL customers.
Still are.
And it was illegal to get onto the internet. There was no internet. You would have to hack into the internet. AOL built a private internet. That's what we were. They called it the walled garden. We had to build our own platform and network to get people online. And I remember just thinking, boy, if we could get to 1 million homes connected, and then we had sub-accounts, so 1 million homes would get us 3 million people connected. And as these things happened, we started to grow exponentially. We got to 36 million homes, 100 million people connected. 1 out of every 3 homes was an AOL subscriber at one point. The Internet of Things will have 1 trillion internet connections. There is nothing, your shoes will be able to tell you when you need new shoes. Your watch will be your computer internally. It will be subcutaneously putting chips inside of people, and that'll be a positive for location services, for health and the like. Your door locks, there was an announcement today that Apple is looking at Internet of Things connecting your house. Well, why not start as soon as you walk in the house? Nest is trying to, handle your lights and your heat. There will be 1 trillion things. And that's the thing about the internet. You mentioned being on the media committee. And ESPN, you're a very powerful and important company. And you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of households around the world. And there are 6.5 billion mobile subscribers. And so one of the things that I pushed in the negotiations was there needs to be a global mobile over-the-top solution, because there's way more people around the world that their mobile device is their computer, is their television, is their Internet of Things, and we should be leaders in delivering the content there. And I literally can see a day when someone in India wants to watch the Sacramento game, but only the last 3 minutes of the game, because on Twitter he hears that the game is really close and maybe their Indian player is in the lineup. And they should be able to do that. And with micropayments, and it'll be global, but it'll be intrinsically, innately, powerfully local and very personal. And so I think the exponential growth of the platform and the network is just driving this new playbook throughout sports.
Absolutely. And when we talk about the communal aspect of sports, going to games, with the season membership stuff, how are you and how are the Wizards using that and the NBA using that to make sure people still want to go to games? The idea of memberships, not just customers.
Sure. I mean, I look at our arena and I have mapped out the whole value chain on, when you're in your house and you're in the car, what's the radio going to be like? What do you have on your mobile device? How do you get into the arena? How are you treated from the moment that you walk in? What kind of connectivity do you have in the arena? Can you tweet? Are you connected to the players? What's your experience like when you leave? What happens the next day? I think the relentlessness, the expectation of a fan or any consumer just continues, this Moore's Law network effect of more and more for less and less and faster. I mean, we're no different. We have to continuously improve and add lots and lots of value to that viewing experience. I also think that there's something magical about being amongst a group of people, like this tribe mentality. We brought in almost 3 million people into Verizon Center last year. And Uber, I know the founder of Uber is going to speak. He and I were talking, and he showed me when the Caps win a game, the number of Uber trips goes up as people go out to eat, they feel good, they go to bars locally, and then they get driven home. We were the Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year because you won't believe how we activate the passion. You come to a Caps game, and hopefully some of you will come to the Winter Classic, which we're bringing to Washington, D.C. We're playing the Blackhawks. But you come to a game, and you'll see 20,000 people all wearing red. There won't be a single person, if there is a person who's not wearing red, the tribe coalesces and they go and buy him one and say, you're standing out, you're not a part of this. It's the oddest thing. People work in downtown DC, shirt and tie, they leave the office at 5, they fight the traffic, they get to their house at 6, they get their wives or husband and kids, they put on their jerseys, and they fight the traffic and come back to the arena. I mean, they are emotionally invested, and they know that we cherish their time as much as we respect the investment they're making with dollars with us.
You know, so much when people talk about popularity of sports, whether it's, you know, NBA or NHL, things like that, it's national ratings, it's national this. I've always come to believe that it's local. Everything should be local first. I mean, I know the national TV money, you know, drives a lot of things, and that's probably the problem in the NHL is that the national deal isn't where it is in the NBA. Now with the Winter Classic, I've argued before that there should be as many outdoor games as possible. And I know it might dilute the national thing, but it's...
The league is doing that more and more often. This year, there's one in San Francisco at the new stadium between the Sharks, who we're playing tonight. I respect Brad Keywell so much that I'm here. I'm missing the Caps' second home game so I could be here to speak in front of you. And local is where your money is spent. Still, if you go home and you go through your QuickBooks or your checkbook, you'll see that you spend 80% of your spending, your discretionary spending, within 20 miles of your home. And so that's why Groupon has been so successful. I mean, ultimately, it's a local, you eat locally. In fact, it's not even local, it's hyper-local. You know, you'll walk out of your office building, and you're really not going to walk more than 2 or 3 blocks to find a table and get a good deal. And so I do believe that, you know, what this new digital platform allows everyone to do is to be targeted, hyper-local, within your community, within your passion area, and then you go from there.
And
one other thing, and one thing that people have misunderstood, we got America Online. There's 180 million internet users in the United States. There's 300 million internet connections. There's 2.5 billion internet users. So someone who can honestly say, I was there at the birth of the internet and helped socialize and popularize it, we're less than 10% of the world usage. I mean, that's very, very sobering. And so even though you want to be a local company, the companies that have built great value, Google, Facebook, I'm surprised that Groupon hasn't broken through yet on the value side. So we're in 700 cities around the world. We are truly a global e-commerce platform. And if you're not global, you're only going to be able to fish in 10% of the pond.
Very interesting. Now, we've got about a minute left. So in that minute, I want you to sell me on why bringing the Olympics to Washington, D.C. is a good idea. We talked about this a little backstage, and you're very adamant about it. I want to hear the passion here.
Well, nothing brings communities closer together than sports, and I'm Greek, and there's this romantic notion of individual achievement and team achievements, and the Olympics are all about that. But Washington, D.C. is a very complex community. It's the fastest growing city, the wealthiest city. Forbes just called us the coolest city. We're also the federal city. It's the seat of government, and we are emblematic of what our country is about. But there is a third Washington, D.C. that needs transformation, and it's a social responsibility to take these parts of our city and make them better. And I spent some time in London, and I was truly amazed. London is the greatest city in the world right now. It has the best economy. It's now 75 miles from tip to tip. And the Olympics are looked at as being the catalyst for great change. The East End is where they built the Olympic Village. That's now fantastic low-income housing. The business center and technology center, which is needed because you have to house all of the media and literally tens of thousands of media members, that's become the power plant for the new venture capital community and high-tech corridor in London. The transportation system that had to be extended, the underground, the bus systems, that to shuttle athletes and get people to that part of the city has now really been responsible for activating a lot of the commerce. So I think it's the ultimate double bottom line business. I'm sure that we can make the Olympics in Washington, D.C. a games that everyone's proud of. I also think we can run it on a profitable basis. We're smart business people. We understand how to do that. I'm sure it'll be the most secure games should we be able to qualify. There's no city in the world that knows how to put on big events better than Washington, D.C. And, I'm of that age now where if we don't get these Olympic Games, I won't get a chance at another one. So why not go for it?
All right. Well, I hope you get it, and I hope to see you there.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, Chad. Thank you very much.